Vice Chair, representing Pinellas County, citizen appointee. Now let's go around the room and introduce the other PSD members on this committee who are here. And
Max McCann, citizen representative of St. Petersburg.
very good. And I'll introduce Brad Miller.
Yes, hello, I'm Brad Miller. I'm the CEO of PSTA.
Very good. Unfortunately, today, we only have 2 committee members physically present. And although we have 2 appearing by Zoom, we do not have an official quorum to take votes. So instead, if it's okay with everyone, we'll just go through the agenda, discuss the items, and see if there's a consensus on each item to report to the board next week, but not take official votes. So we'll start with public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to give public comment? Seeing no public wishing to speak, we'll move on.
And maybe you should just identify, have them introduce
Oh,
themselves.
okay, very good. Yes, we have some attendees attending by Zoom. So you want to introduce yourselves?
Good morning, Tom Reed, Commissioner or Vice Mayor, rather, City of South Pasadena, and the Chairman of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Tom.
Rob Walker, Commissioner of the great city of Dunedin. My sincerest apologies for not being there in person. I just ended a 5-week sabbatical in Washington DC and got home late last night, and appreciate everybody's understanding on that. And I will look forward to being with you the next time.
Very good, thank you.
Sean,
And good morning, Sean Fleming, Senior Benefits Consultant with the Garing Group.
Very good, Sean, thank you very much. So information items, we have, first information item is Al Burns. You want to give us an update on Clearwater?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Finance Committee members, Mr. McCann. And good morning, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Walker. This morning, I'm going to give you an informational item on the Clearwater Station and the status of where we're at. As you know, the Clearwater Station will be our new multimodal transit center and is going to be located in downtown Clearwater. The station will replace the Park Street Terminal that has become obsolete. So staff and all the staff have been working really hard on this, and I have a timeline, and I apologize, Rachel. And I just want to go through a timeline, a sequence of events that have happened up until today. On June 2nd and June 3rd in downtown Clearwater, we had what we call an industry day, where we gave information out about the project to the general public. And each day, the second and the third, each day we had over 30 participants there. The participants included small businesses, general contractors, and a lot of the different trade businesses. Shortly thereafter, on June 6th, we released the IFB. We had the pre-bid conference right here on campus on June 12th, and we had about approximately 20 people attend the pre-bid conference. I'd like to point out 6 of them were GCs. The reason I put emphasis on GCs is GC stands for General Contractor, and those are the people that we intend to submit as the prime contractor for the project. The original bid date was July 11th, last Thursday or last Friday. But we did not have that. We canceled that bid date. The reason being is because we had over 3 general contractors reach out to us and ask for extensions. Staff and I met, my colleague, Mr. Campello, the director of PMO, Brad, Debbie, even council, we all talked about it, and we thought it was in the best interest that we grant the extension. The reason we granted the extension was because we wanted to make sure that the participants still stayed interested in the project. Also, with the amount of people that we had downloaded, you see 80 people, we wanted to make sure that we kept competition. As most of you know, competition drives pricing. If you only got one person, they can name their price tag. If you have multiple people that are going to submit, people tend to, what we call a procurement shop, sharpen their pencils. Today is the Finance Committee, and today I'm bringing this item as an informational item. More importantly, because it's not an action item and it was intended to be an action item today. What we've asked, and I asked Brad, was authorization to move this directly to the board next Wednesday. Bids come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I'm anxious, and my team will tell you that I'm extremely anxious, optimistic, and motivated for tomorrow morning. I can't wait. It's like Christmas almost. The intent that I have is to bring to you the lowest responsive bid at the July 23rd board meeting at 9 a.m. I would like to add, a member of my staff, Mr. Alex Marcano, he serves as a contracting officer. But I am shepherding us through this process, as Brad has told me numerous times, as this is the #1 project for PSTA at this time. If there are any questions about this informational item, there is no action needed. It is just an informational item. And if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions? Any questions online?
No, right here. Yeah, all good. It was covered very well during the legislative and the executive committee meetings last week.
Okay, very good. Well, with no questions, we'll move on to item number 4, which, 4A. Do I have a motion? I can't do that either, can I? Nope, can't do that. Okay, I was going to have a motion to approve the June 18th meeting minutes, but we'll postpone that. The next item is the millage rate, PSTA tentative millage rate to advertise on term notices. And that would be Debbie Lewis, you want to do a presentation on that?
Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you.
So this month, as required by state statute, we have to determine the maximum millage rate that'll be put on the trim notices. And there are 2 more votes on the trim, both in September, one after the first public hearing, and then the final after the second public hearing. So the decision we have to make today is what will be the trim, the millage rate that we will put on the trim notices. Now, the action that we are recommending as staff is to reduce the millage rate from 0.7342 to 0.7300. This would save the taxpayers approximately $500,000. However, in talking with other board members, both Brad and I, in meetings that we've started, we've had some recommendations from board members to maintain, just for the trim notice, the current millage rate at 0.342. So in order to do that, we're going to have to, over the summer, I'll tell you how we got to the 0.7300, but it's really what's interesting at the 0.73. This is the lowest rate we will have had since before 2011, before Brad and I were even here. So when we take a look at this, as I mentioned several times, over the course of the summer, we constantly are looking at the budget, both revenues and expenses. And we have found ways to reduce the expenses enough that we could, if the board so desires, reduce it down to the 0.7300. One of the more innovative ideas that we came up with from Commissioner Brian Scott, was to use AI for our mobility team for customer service. In being able to do so, we will be able to eliminate through attrition 1 position for a mobility reservation agent. So we're still able to have a balanced budget with either. And we have a lot of things you see on here that were board-driven from the ideas you came to us both last year and this year from the board workshops. The intent of the board was to find ways to increase our revenues through premium fares, and clearly we're achieving that through some of the services we are going to be providing. In addition, we're still very customer focused, looking to find ways to make it easier to ride PSTA through online enrollment through reduced fares for Flamingo. So we're constantly moving forward, as well as maintaining, as the board voted, I think it was 2 years ago, for free rides for veterans. Now this chart, the purpose of this chart is to show you that property tax that we have here, $86 million, is significant in our budget from the revenue side. However, when you take a look at just the portions that are directly related to getting the buses and the ferries on the street, it's $107 million. So property tax is very important to PSTA to be able to continue operating our services. However, to the taxpayer, PSTA is a very small piece of the property taxes they pay. We're way over here at 3.7% of an average property tax bill. So while it's big to us, it's small to the taxpayer, but it allows us to be able to provide the services, new services. We're going to be doing an improved bus network at no cost this year. And of course, as I mentioned, we have a lot of services that you as a board brought to us to implement. So the action, if we were to take an action today, would be to either A, maintain the millage rate at the current for just the trim notice, or reduce it to 0.7300. As a reminder, whatever we set at this board meeting coming up will be the maximum rate we can charge. We can always go down between now and the final public hearing. And with that, I will take any questions or comments.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hazelden, and thank you, Debbie Louise, for that presentation. This is the first time I'm going through this process. Help me understand trim notice. This is
Sure.
sent out to the property owners
Yes.
as sort of a heads up, this is what we're planning to do.
Exactly, you are spot on.
And so it can go down after this, but it can't go up after this.
Correct. Whatever we said at the board meeting will be the maximum amount for this year that we can charge the taxpayers.
Okay,
But between now and the end of September, we can always lower it. You just can't go above whatever is set.
so what's the advantage of sending out a trim notice that's lower than the current rate? It seems like it could only hurt us by limiting our options going forward.
It would limit our options. Now, one of the things that as CFO, I'm always looking down the road. We can afford to do it at the lower millage rate for just next year. When I look down the road, because we're getting one-time COVID relief funds that will be going away, on a long-term basis, there's implications on not being able to set aside any additional monies or be able to do that. So there's no downside to keeping it at where we're at. You know, I think we've listened as staff to some of the board members who, of course, we want to be able to lower taxes if possible. So we're trying to look at it from everybody's perspective.
That's good, thank you. Thanks.
Are there any questions from online? Rob or Tom?
Hi, Chairman, Vice Chair, thank you so much. Debbie, considering, I know we're not taking action today, but we're gonna stay with the current millage rate with the intent to hopefully go down to the one we talked about.
Yes,
Is that what I'm hearing?
yes. And again, that is up to the members of the
Okay.
board.
Okay. Did you have further comment, Tom?
Thank you.
Okay, so.
No, all set, thank you so much.
Okay, so I want to be clear about the process that we're at without having a quorum. So we're not going to take any action on this today.
Not today,
Okay.
not at this meeting.
Okay.
We'll be presenting this at planning again too.
Okay, I think it's important. I think it's important in view of Commissioner McCann's comments, that we review the action item sheet. Now, I make it a practice every meeting to look at everything that's been posted for the meetings, I'm sure we all do. But to review, because I do remember, I mean, there's 2 or 3 things that come to mind. But I do remember a few years ago, I think it says in here in 2017, by statute, our maximum at PSTA is 0.75. And PSTA was at 0.7305, if that's not, if I'm not mistaken. And there was quite a dispute a few years ago because you went to the 0.75 without really needing to do it at that time. And there was, back and forth with the board members. And so you went to 0.75 for a few years. And then the rollback happened last year with some new members of the board going back to the 0.7305. However, with property taxes, this is just for your benefit, Max, and others. But with property taxes, property values going up and up and up, if you look at the chart that's in the budget, in the statistical portion of the budget, towards the end of the budget for 26, you can see the graph, and it shows over the last 10 years just this boom of property value in Pinellas County. And that has caused the revenue from the property tax to go do that same boom for PSTA and other government agencies. And so I just want to lay that groundwork because we're not going to take any action today. But you have in your overview here that wasn't brought up, that in order, I know the rollback happened last year, and that went back to the
It went from 0.7500 to 0.7342.
Okay, 0.7342. And that created an increase. If we were to stay at the 7305, it's going to create another $3 million in revenue just because of the increase in property values. So you have stated here that to keep the budget the same off of the taxpayers, that would be a rollback to 0.73. Is that, what is it, Debbie? Was it?
We've got 2 options on here. The first is maintaining it,
Yeah,
and that would increase our revenues by the 3.5 million. If we, 3.554.
uh-huh.
And then if we were to move forward with incrementally rolling back to 0.7300, it would be about a $3 million increase in property tax revenue from the values. And we're trying to look at it from an incremental basis. As property values are going up this year about 4% for PSTA. We also have expenditures, et cetera, going up almost equally as well.
Yeah, but
So,
that's a
we're
lot
able
of
to move
excess,
back.
that's a lot, not excess, but that's a lot of new spending.
Remember that we have, and while we're very low cost, our key drivers, which we'll be hearing a little bit about today,
Right,
salaries, which we're locked into salaries based on union contracts for the majority of our employees, fringe benefits, which we have, it's always a little dicey on what we're gonna get from FRS, and then health insurance out of the benefits that PSTA participates in. That will be going up about, you'll be hearing about shortly, about 7%. So we do have items that are going up that just will automatically, we don't have a lot of control over.
okay. So, but we do have a lot of control over other items that
Right.
So I just wanted, we're not taking action today. I just want to be sure that we talk about to roll back again would be 0.7023. That's what you have here.
That would be the 0.7023 would be a full rollback.
Full
So we-
rollback. Okay,
that
that's
would
what I
mean
just wanna
we
get
would
that on
have-
the table.
Right, so if we were to do a full rollback, we essentially would have to start gutting our system to do that.
You would have to
That-
do what?
Gut our system. You know, really, and we just passed, the board just passed the Community Connected Bus Network, which we hope will help improve ridership and revenues.
Uh-huh.
So I think on an incremental basis, as we look at things, it's the prudent way to start looking at how we work with the property taxes.
I just wanted to get this out because it's very interesting laid out here and then I think that it's something that's important for us to
Absolutely.
to review is that even though that we're still talking about another $3 million addition to the budget, unless we did another rollback. So I just wanted to, we're not gonna take action today, but I just wanted to bring that up because that wasn't really brought out. So I appreciate that. Do we have any other questions from anyone? Yeah.
I've got a couple.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first one, I thought I understood, but maybe I don't. If we were taking action today, basically this would be an approval to send out the trim notice at that 07.7342 number. And with the final approval by the board to basically that sets the high bar. We would have the leeway if we so choose to go lower than that 0.7342. And but the trim notice is based on that number, correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, all right, so now I understand. And what is the full rollback amount?
The full rollback rate would be 0.7023. That would mean a decrease in revenue to us of over $3.5 million.
All right, and you mentioned that the staff recommendation was 0.7300?
That is correct.
Okay. And that reduction is based on essentially breaking even from last year.
That essentially allows us to, we've gone through and found some cost savings. So we were able to reduce it to that dollar amount and still have a balanced budget.
Okay, all right, no, that's great. Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
No new increases, just keeping, basically what you said, Commissioner Walker, to balance the budget next year. We think we can go to 0.7300, keeping the services as is. No really new services.
Yes, okay, yep, tracking, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ms. Louise, on page 5 of the slide where it shows operating expenses and property taxes, help me because I'm new. Is it a problem that taxes are lower than operating expenses? Is this a $25 million shortfall, or are we supplementing from other sources?
That is a great question. It shows, number one, this slide shows the importance of property tax to operating our services. The other thing, it shows the importance of non-property tax revenue, which has been a focus of the board over the last couple years. This year at the workshops, we talked a lot about increasing the use of the UPass revenue. We fought hard over the last year to maintain our advertising revenue and other areas like that, so that we can have less dependence on property tax. The diversification of revenues is important.
And fare box recovery, I
And fair,
assume,
absolutely, it's a big piece.
is what makes up that
Mhm.
difference. Okay.
That's a great question, Max. There's a pie chart that for me is, I guess I'm a pie chart type of person. I like
just
to
like
see
pies.
Me
pictures.
too.
And you'll see that, as is the design, the largest portion of the income, the revenue for operations is the property tax, that's just by design. So, but the more tax that comes in, the more we spend. So, there are other, this is not creating a shortfall. To your concern for PSTA and my concern, because there are by design, other revenue sources that are in the pie chart. I hope I said that clearly.
You've been doing great. You can take over anytime you want. But no, it's great, and it's been a great discussion, especially I think you've got some new people here, new people on the board, even though we all pay our taxes, we probably don't look at it as closely as we do here at PSTA, as we're dependent on it at this point.
Well, I find your sheets very helpful because when you look at the agenda for the upcoming meetings, if you just look at the presentations, you don't get the behind-the-scenes sheet that you put together that are excellent, that really explain, the nuts and bolts. So I always read, what do you call these sheets?
Those are, summaries.
Oh, thank you, summaries. Summaries, I knew that. So these are the summaries, and so in fact, if you look at my summary, you'll see I have highlighted. So that tells you
Thank
about, that tells you about how boring my life is.
No, that just says how exciting we are here,
So,
We could make it even more exciting and send you the actual State Department of Revenue DR 420 forms.
oh,
that Debbie and people have to fill out.
Well, I think that,
all these numbers.
what really, if you don't mind, I don't know whether I'm supposed to do this as chair in the meeting, but this year, when there was so much talk during the legislative session about getting rid of property taxes,
Yeah.
one of the reasons was exactly what we're talking about, is just that with all the government agencies that have depended on property tax, over the last 10 years, because Florida's property values have just skyrocketed, we all know that through our own homes, that it has created that revenue to skyrocket because they're getting a percentage.
Yeah.
And that's what,
Great point.
and Governor DeSantis was talking about how it's tax and spend. It's just, and maybe we should get rid of property taxes being, I'm not saying that that I'm in favor of that or opposed to it. I'm just saying that it really brought attention, I think, to what we're discussing today. So with that, unless,
And then maybe to that point, Debbie, if you go back to the dollar, yes, there was a lot of discussion at the during the legislative session about
Right.
property taxes as ways, because everyone's trying to figure out how to lower the cost of housing. And one way would be to reduce the taxes, obviously, that you pay. What we've been told is that, as you see, we're sort of the very tip of the tail. If property taxes were to be eliminated or somehow, the schools, the city, like police and fire and all the things that the city pays for and trash, and then the county would be also significantly affected. The property tax that people pay is of course very different for every single person in Pinellas County. If you own your home, you can get a $50,000 homestead exemption to reduce your taxable value by $50,000 for the home you live in. Not if you have a vacation home, you can't do that. So they pay more. If
you live in your home.
there is a Save Our Homes piece of legislation that no matter how much your house goes up in value, and a lot of houses have gone up by 15-20% in the last couple of years, the maximum your taxable value out can go up is by 3% if you are a homeowner. Now, that is not the case for businesses. Businesses pay, if the property value of Raymond James goes up by 10%, then they pay 10% more in taxes. It is a very complex system.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people, when they look at their trim notice, they look at how much their house went up. And they get excited. if their house went up in price, but then 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 they looked at it a little bit lower and they say, oh my gosh, I'm paying more in taxes. But I think it's difficult for folks to really grasp it because they don't want their house to go down in value. They want it to go up. But even if the tax rates all stayed the same for all of the governments, they would pay more, right?
To your point, this is excellent conversation in my opinion. That's where rollback comes in. This is where rollback comes in, so that there is this vehicle that the government can roll back to the prior year and not continue to, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tax creep almost,
Yes,
then your scope expands, yeah,
Yeah.
totally,
okay.
good point.
So we're not gonna do anything about this today anyway, but it's a good discussion, I think.
Very good discussion.
Yeah. Okay, so,
Move that on to our largest single contract in our entire budget. That pays.
All right, quick question, just another clarification on this.
Uh-huh.
So obviously, since we're not able to make any decision today, when will the trim notice come up again for?
oh, good
Release.
question. Will
Next
that
week.
be next week?
Next week at the board meeting. We have to, by the end of the month, basically submit this fund form that Brad mentioned to the property appraisers so that the trim notices can be sent out.
Okay.
So it'll come up at the board meeting, we'll just take a
It'll be
right
an action item?
as an action item, yeah.
Yes.
That'll be the action item to vote on what the trim notice should be at the board meeting next week. We're also gonna take it up at the planning committee in an hour, where maybe we'll have a quorum.
Yes.
So the planning committee can make a recommendation on it at that time.
Okay, very good. So, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the employee benefits. Trish?
Yes.
Yes, Trish Collins, Director of HR, is gonna outline the 2026 contract renewals with Cigna. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm glad to be with you all this morning. We're having a great discussion about the factors that influence our budget. And as Debbie mentioned, our employee benefits is a significant one. Today, I'm bringing to discussion, consideration at the committee, the 2026 employee benefits renewal rates. This is covering our medical, dental, vision, and life insurance. So, as Debbie had said, the employee benefits are a significant portion of PSTA's budget, and we work really hard each year to get the best renewal rate that we can. In fact, to assist with that, we partner with an excellent organization called the Gehring Group. They serve as our benefits broker and help administer our benefits plans. And Sean Fleming, who introduced himself at the top of the meeting, is our account representative, senior benefits consultant with the Gehring Group. He's done an excellent job for us for more than a decade, helping to maintain the lowest possible rates and high-quality benefits for our employees. So we're pleased this year to present a renewal rate that is at the low end of average increases. We've got a renewal rate of 7% on offer from Cigna, who provides our medical and dental insurance, and no increases to our vision insurance, and a small increase for our Minnesota life insurance. This 7% increase is shared between PSTA and the premiums that our employees pay every month. And the PSTA portion for 2026 is $10.64 million. And that is included and fits within our budget for FY26. So the discussion today at the committee level is PSTA's 2026 renewal of health benefits, including renewing with Cigna for our medical and prescription insurance for a not-to-exceed employer portion of $10.3 million, renewing with Cigna for dental insurance for a not-to-exceed employer portion of $200,000, renewing with Versant MetLife for our vision insurance for a not to exceed employer portion of $50,000, and renewing with Oaks Minnesota Life for life insurance with a not to exceed employer portion of $85,000. So overall, that comes to a total of $6.4 million, which again, we've accounted for in our proposed FY26 budget. With that, I'll turn back over to the committee for discussion and questions.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion or questions for anyone?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Mhm.
I think this dovetails a little bit with our prior conversation, because what we're seeing is our expenses are going up. So while it might be tempting to keep a full rollback rate of our prior tax base, tax income, property tax rate, that wouldn't cover our expenses if our expenses go up like this. Just something to think about. But yeah, I think that this looks like we've managed to somewhat contain the rising costs of healthcare that we've all seen in our private lives. So commendations and congratulations. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. This will be postponed, correct?
If there's no objection, we'll take this to the PSTA board next week
Okay,
for approval, yeah.
very good. So thank you. So we'll move on. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you so much.
Move on to 4D, benefits broker contract amendment. And that is Trish Chanel will review a contract amendment to add funds to PSTA's benefit brokerage firm. You want to explain that? Thank you.
Good morning again, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioner Reed and Finance Committee members. As Trish mentioned, we use Gearing Group, and to drill down on that, I like to use the acronym BLUF, bottom line up front. They're the ones that negotiate our benefits for PSTA. Gearing Group is a reputable firm. They're located here in our great state of Florida. And Sean, I just want to give you a shout out there, buddy. How you doing this morning?
We're doing good, Al. Good morning.
And Sean Fleming, as he said, he's the one that leads those negotiations. We've had Gearing under contract for a while, but this current contract that I'm bringing to you, we entered into in 2023. One of my most important jobs as the Director of Procurement is to monitor the contracts. I monitor them for two things. I monitor them to make sure that we don't exceed that not to exceed amount that you approve every time we bring something to you, and we don't go past the term of those contracts. A couple of weeks ago, or last month, I was doing our due diligence, and I noticed that we were overspending on the Gearing contract. My team and I, my deputy director and I, Mr. David Hensler, we did a deep dive to find out exactly why we were overspending. The reason for our spend is going over is that Gearing Group offers a software solution called Bentech. Bentech helps manage the open enrollment and the administration of our benefits. That software package has a price tag. That price tag is approximately $30,000 a year. Madam Vice Chair, Finance Committee members, when I brought this to you in 2023, I did not include that $300,000 that $150,000 for that software when I brought it to you in 2023. I own that. The amount of 150, this is not any addition. Matter of fact, when you look at the action item or the summary as we called it, the fiscal impact, this is budgeted. This is budgeted this year and last year. is funded by operating funds. And Madam Vice Chair and Finance Committee, if there were action, the recommendation would be recommend approval of an additional $150,000 to be added to the existing contract with Garing Group Incorporated for a revised not to exceed amount of $550,000. The contract that we brought to you in 2023 was valued at $400,000, and I'm asking for another $150,000 for this important software that is used for those reasons that I stated earlier. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions?
And again, it is not an increase in cost, it is just increasing the value of the contract to reflect the software that we're already using, that the employees are already using. To sign up for the health insurance.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just clarification on what Brad just said and what Al said. So this is more of a paperwork housekeeping issue than a finance, really, anything additional, correct?
I would agree with that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so just, no, and I know we're not taking any action today, but just an additional increasing the contract, even though it's already budgeted and all that stuff, so it's kind of, like I said, just housekeeping. Thank you.
Well, if there are no other questions, then we'll postpone this.
Yeah.
Correct? Pretty good, thank you. Alternator contract, item 4E. Final discussion is to recommend approval of multi-year contract for bus alternators. Henry Lukasik, where is he?
How you doing? Good morning.
Thank you very much. You wanna give us an overview?
Yeah, we'll be really quick. This is one of those routine contracts that we have in maintenance for remanufactured alternators. Yes, we still remanufacture parts here in the modern era. This one is an alternator, and just in case folks have heard the term but don't know what it is, just like on your automobile, an alternator generates electricity to keep your batteries charged and power all the electrical systems. Only difference on a bus is it's much larger, very big unit. We have about 75 buses out of our 200 bus fleet that still use our alternators, the hybrids, and of course the electric buses don't need these components. We do about 40 a year. It has a specific type of alternator, that's why you see in your summary that it is a Niehoff brand alternator, and those need to be remanufactured by certified remanufacturers. Why? Is because due to the size and the cost of them, we wanna make sure that we preserve the warranty of the original equipment supplier. I'll let Al talk about the procurement, which was pretty straightforward. We've had experience with both of these two suppliers in the past, and they both do good work for us.
Thank you.
Likewise, I'll be very brief, Madam Vice Chair. At the end of May, we released the invitation for bid, or an IFB, in accordance with all of our procurement policies. We posted it. On June 19th, we received 2 bids, one from Electric Sales Service and one from Romaine Electric Corporation. The amounts of those bids are in there, and it was a sizable difference. We did a responsibility check and determined that Electric Sales and Service has the capacity to perform the work and are eligible for award. The fiscal impact of this is funded by operating funds. One point that I would like to bring out is, like Henry said, we've done work with both of these companies before, and I would say that Electric, we're glad to be doing business with them, and they brought in very aggressive pricing that was lower than what we currently have under contract, so we were very, very pleased for that. The recommendation that we bring before you this morning is recommend approval of a 1-year contract with 2 one-year options with Electric Sales and Service for remanufactured CE Niehoff alternators for a total contract amount not to exceed $131,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. If there are any questions, Henry and I will be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Tom?
I have one. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you, Andrew, in and out. Just curious more than anything, what's the cost savings on the remanufactured versus new?
$2,000 to $3,000.
Per alternator?
Say it again?
There's a remanufactured alternator is about $2,000 to $3,000 less than a new one.
Per unit, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
average
Thank you.
cost of a
Curiosity.
The average cost is what? Go ahead.
The average cost of a remanufactured alter ranges from $850 to $1,850 as opposed to $3,000 to $4,000 for a new one.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
very good, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll have to postpone this, correct?
We'll go ahead and just take it to the board. For.
What to the board?
Yeah.
And item number 5 is reports. We have Devin Deal, who's gonna give us a ridership performance planning report. Devin is the plan data analyst manager and is gonna update us on ridership trends. Yes.
Hello, good morning, Finance Committee. Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager, and I'm excited to talk to you about one of my favorite things today, and that's benchmarking. So I took a lot of PSTA's operational data and our key performance indicators, pretty standard transit key performance indicators, and I use National Transit Database information. This is publicly available to everybody. It is how the federal government accounts for what transit agencies do, the service that we provide, our operating, ridership, everything else is reported into NTD. And if you were so moved, you could also find any report on any transit agency for, I believe, the past 25 fiscal years on their fare revenue, operating costs, ridership, all of these same key performance indicators. So I took this publicly available NTD data and pulled it for all of our American Bus Benchmarking Group partners so that I could compare us to peer agencies to see how we stack up. And relevant to the conversation that we were having earlier, our fare revenue is low. That is no secret. We have relatively low fare revenue even compared to our peer agencies. There are a few reasons for that. We have very significant discount programs that a lot of our peer agencies don't offer. We also get significant revenue from the state of Florida for our Transportation Disadvantage Program that isn't factored into average fare. So there's a few factors driving that cost down, but regardless of what's driving it down, our average fare collected per ride is low. This graph here, all of the graphs in this presentation are going to be in the same format. You'll see the peer agencies in blue, Florida agencies are highlighted in green, and PSTA is orange. The group average for all of these metrics is going to be that purple line on the top. So for our average fare, this is the average amount that we collect every time a rider taps their card on the bus. PSTA is just over 60 cents. Part of that is also fare capping. We know that if a rider transfers, for example, they'll pay full price for their first 2 rides to get to that $4.50. Their second ride would be 50 cents to get them to the $5 fare cap. And their fourth ride would be free, and any rides after that are free. So there's a lot of factors driving our fare down, but our average fare is low. Our expenses compared to our peers are also low, and we're gonna dig into that. So first of all, a big topic at the board the last few months has been the cost per ride, what PSTA pays every single time we provide a ride to a resident of Pinellas County. And we are just over $10 and a few cents below the group average. So kind of middle of the pack in our cost per ride. But we also know that all rides are not the same. If you have a longer ride or longer average rides as an agency, they're going to be more expensive than agencies that have shorter trips on average. And what we see is PSTA has much longer trips than a lot of our peer agencies. We average over 5 miles per ride. There's a few reasons for that. One of them is our geography, our peninsula. We have a lot of very long trips traveling from St. Petersburg to Clearwater and the reverse. Our busiest routes, Route 18 and Route 52, are 2 of our busiest routes. They travel from St. Petersburg to Clearwater and the reverse, and they carry around 150, 160,000 riders a month combined. Route 4 travels the entirety of the city of St. Petersburg north to south, and that has about 60,000 rides. The Sunrunner travels all the way from downtown St. Petersburg over to St. Pete Beach, about 10.5 miles each way. So we have a lot of long trips in our county, And that bears out in our data. We see that we have a longer average trip than a lot of our peers. So one thing we can do is check our cost per passenger mile. For every single mile that we move a passenger, how much are we paying? So passenger miles are calculated by, if you have a bus and there's 5 riders on the bus, and that bus travels 5 miles, 5 riders travel 5 miles each, that's 25 passenger miles. PSTA moved our passengers cumulatively 25 miles in that 5-mile trip. We see, while our cost per ride is average, we have longer trips, and our cost per mile that our passengers travel is in the bottom quarter of our peer agencies, and we're in line with 2 other of our Florida agencies, and Hart and Lynx in Orlando. We see Jacksonville, which we know it's one of, I believe it's the largest county in the state, land area, and it's rather sprawling, so we know they have longer trips as well, but they also have a much higher cost per passenger mile. So another way that we can measure our cost effectiveness is what are we paying per revenue mile? For every single mile our buses travel in service, what does it cost PSTA? And we are again in the bottom quarter of our peer agencies. It's just over $10 per revenue mile that PSTA is traveling with passengers on the bus. The group average is around $14. Another KPI that we can measure is our cost per revenue hour. For every single hour the bus is on the road, how much are we as an agency paying? And we again see that PSTA is in the bottom third for this metric. So our cost per revenue hours are pretty well below the group average as well. But what is most important to the board is how much are we subsidizing every ride as a transit agency, and where do we stand compared to our peers? So on average, every agency that I compared here subsidizes every single ride about $10. Some are lower than others, but every ride is subsidized to some extent. We see PSTA is below the group average, around $9.50, and you can get this net subsidy. It is the cost per ride minus average fare. So that's how we calculated this across all the other agencies. And you can again see PSTA is below the group average, middle of the pack, but still below the group average. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? Is this presentation going to be given to the board? I was looking at the board agenda for Wednesday.
Do you think that would be a good idea?
I would like to see this presentation,
I think that'd be helpful too.
so for the entire board to see, because this is really the nuts and bolts.
Yes, ma'am.
And a great presentation, Devin. Yeah,
Thank you.
great job. So, any questions from anyone? And if not, we'll just review this again at the board meeting. I think it's gonna be at the planning meeting also, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is,
Working with Devin before this meeting on this presentation, I thought it's pretty, I think it's really good, but it just kind of takes maybe a couple times to look at it. It took me like 5 times to look at it before I kind of got it, so I understand. That's why we put it on the plan committee and probably the board also.
I wouldn't mind, Madam Vice Chair. Devin, could you, I'm looking at the May ridership by route sheet,
yes.
and I'm seeing a lot of lines are up, a lot of lines are down. I'm seeing swings on some routes by like 25%, some up, some down. Average ridership about flat from this time last May, down 1%. What can you tell us about those trends? What can explain such a wide swing on some of these routes?
Yeah, so I know that, I don't have that on the top of my head, but specifically I know if those routes are servicing the beach or other key tourist destinations or where a lot of service workers are working, we have seen a decrease of ridership on those routes. Kind of lingering impacts from the hurricane. I think there's a lot of areas that still haven't fully recovered, and that is hitting our ridership because we know a lot of those service workers are relying on us to get to work.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see, I'm not really sure what's going on with the Looper, in downtown St. Petersburg. That one's down 25%, although it was up 31% last year, the year before, so not really sure. what that might be. And then the Flex Safety Harbor is down 64%. That's really a fundamental change. We instead of totally eliminating service, the route, we turned it into an on-demand service, and so that explains that one.
Yeah.
I know that.
And the Central Avenue trolley, that's not going any further than 34th Street now, isn't it? Is that true?
It stops right before 34th Street at Grand Central, yes
Okay,
ma'am, from
so-
Grand Central to downtown St. Petersburg.
For those of you that are kind of new on the board, the Central Avenue trolley was kind of the backbone for the idea of what became the Sunrunner.
Right.
And so now, I mean, I think it kind of cannibalized the Central Avenue trolley. What would you say about that, Brad?
Well, yeah, you can see like, where is it? Yeah, in 2022, it had 50,000 riders a month. And that was before the Sunrunner. And then when the Sunrunner kicked in, we scaled it back from the beach down to 34th, and it's down to 25,000? Yeah, a month. So yeah, what we've seen is that, yes, a lot of riders did shift over to the Sunrunner from the trolley, but the net, if you add the two together from before to after, you see still a pretty substantial increase in overall ridership in the quarter combined. Yeah. But yeah, now.
Well, the number to compare would be what, 64,000 plus 24,000? Compared to 54,000?
Yeah, let's see. Yes, let's see.
Yeah, if you take the Sunrunner plus the Central Avenue trolley now,
Right,
it's more than the Central Avenue trolley was before the Sunrunner.
yes.
I don't see this on my sheet. Where is it?
Bottom quarter.
Oh, there it is, okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, good discussion. So, we're going to be seeing, we'll see, you're gonna get two more chances at
Yes,
this
ma'am.
presentation.
Can't wait.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no further questions, then let's see, we're at Julie Lupus, giving the monthly financial update.
And I'm gonna play the part of Julie Lucas
Okay.
today.
Great.
So we're reviewing the month of May, and in the month of May, we had a deficit of 5.9 million compared to a budgeted deficit of 7 million. Now, just for you to kind of put it in context, we get all of our revenue in the first few months of the year. And then the latter half of the year, we are budgeting deficits because we've already received that big property tax revenue that we just talked about. So when we take a look at this, our revenues are above budget, about $95,000 or 2.5%. Leading that is our auxiliary revenue. What's included in there and driving that is our advertising revenue. We always have our guaranteed minimum of advertising revenue, and now we are starting to get above and beyond the guaranteed minimum. So we should see that going up over the remainder of the year. On the expense side, we are under budget on almost every single area. There's a couple areas that are a little bit over budget, and one of it is, and I know Commissioner Hazelton, you've talked about this, on utilities. The timing of the electric buses, we are getting way more electric buses in this year and our hybrids compared to what we thought we would. The whole time schedule has been moved up from 26 to 25. So we're seeing an increase in our electric costs this year that was not anticipated at the same rate. So I thought you might enjoy hearing about that. Diesel expenses are under budget, insurance expenses, everything else, salaries under budget. So we're looking very good. On a year-to-date basis, we are at $28 million surplus as compared to 22.7. That's a $5.5 million surplus. As we go over the next few months, you will see that decreasing because I'm taking some of the money, grant money I would have used this year, and I'm using it to balance the budget next year. So I'm kind of strategically looking to see where we're at what we could do to help ourselves for next year, and that's that COVID relief funds that we're talking about. So we're doing well year to date, and with that, I will take any questions on the finances.
Any questions?
And I also have the contracts report.
Okay,
So on a quarterly basis here, we send out to you this contracts report. And my colleague Al Burns will be taking this over at the next one.
Good.
And this is a report that over time we keep adding to or changing a little bit. But the importance of this report is to see our largest contract values and also to look at an average spend on this, to kind of put it in context. Because sometimes when you see a huge dollar amount, it's a little eye-popping, but when you kind of look at it as to how we're gonna spend it over a number of years. It's a great tool for us to also take a look at as staff members to see when things are coming due. The procurement team is excellent at letting us know when things are coming up for renewal, et cetera, but it's a great planning tool as well. So we kind of have it in an order here of taking a look based on the anticipated average spend for all the contracts that we have.
okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. I was wondering if I missed something as far as understanding, because the federal lobbyist contract wasn't, I thought that all contracts came through this committee.
Well, I would say 90% of them do, and then just a couple do not. Since we have a legislative committee, the lobbyists went through the legislative committee, because they're the ones who work with the lobbyists. That's why we did that.
Okay, because I was surprised, I guess, that the federal lobbyist renewal came up last month at the board meeting, but it had not come through this committee first.
Okay, well, yeah, in the future, we could kind of do what we're doing in the planning committee and take it to both. We could do that.
Well, I mean, I just
Yeah.
thought that that's, I thought
Okay.
that my understanding was that this committee reviewed all contracts.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's been a couple that we've just taken to the planning committee, like for plans and stuff, but all of the vast majority come to this.
Yeah.
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 But we'll go ahead and do that, to have the lobbyist one come to this committee as well.
Yeah, I'd like to, so we
Yeah.
can discuss it. And talking also about the propulsion cost comparison that we had talked about, I think, last month.
Yeah.
Do you know when that might be?
Next month.
Next month in
Oh,
August.
good, great, thanks. All right. Those are just a couple questions I had that's in that, do the committee members have any other questions? Those were a couple questions. Does anyone else have any questions with regards to the PSTA contracts?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. And any other business to come before the board by any of the members? Anyone want to bring anything up? Okay. So with that, our next meeting is August 20th, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Smooth meeting.